The forest should not have held snow this late in the season. It was early spring, warm enough for sap to rise, warm enough for streams to thaw, warm enough for birds to return in restless flocks. Meltwater dripped from every rocky slope, puddles collected on the trails. The wind carried the scent of earth waking from winter. But beneath the fallen pines, the snow remained. Thick, cold, untouched. A pale, unmoving island of winter in a forest already shifting toward green. And in the center of that stubborn patch of snow sat a lynx. Her fur was silvered with frost, though she did not shiver. Her tufted ears flicked toward every sound, every motion. Yellow eyes glowed faintly in the shade of the toppled trees, huge pines blown down by a storm weeks ago, their roots clawing the air like a nest of wooden serpents. She sat perfectly still, watching, listening, waiting. Up the slope, Mara Jensen tightened her grip on her hiking poles. She had been tracking the strange cold reports for 2 days. Hunters complaining about unmelted snow, a ranger claiming his thermometer dropped 20 degrees near a blowdown, a farmer swearing his dog wouldn't go near the ridge. But Mara hadn't expected to find a lynx guarding the center of it. She stepped around a stump, boots crunching through soft soil, and froze when she saw the animal. "Oh," she whispered, "you're beautiful." The lynx didn't move, didn't blink. Her gaze tracked Mara slowly, like a needle following a tremor on a dial. Mara took a careful step closer. The air cooled instantly. Her breath fogged. She stopped mid-stride. "That's not right." The lynx lowered her head slightly, not threatening, not fearful, but aware, as if acknowledging Mara's presence without deciding whether she belonged here. Mara scanned the fallen pines. Snow blanketed the ground in a perfect circle, pure white, untouched by melt or footprints. It should have been slushy. It should have been shrinking into patches. Yet, it lay thick and crisp, preserved as though winter had never passed. And at the center, the lynx. Mara whispered, "What happened to you? Why is it so cold here?" The lynx blinked once. A soft crack sounded beneath the snow, quiet, brittle, like thin ice flexing. Mara turned sharply, expecting to see the snow settling under her weight. But she wasn't standing on snow. The crack had come from beside the lynx. The snow didn't sag or shift. It hardened. The surface smoothed itself, sharpening to a faint sheen, frozen, freezing, right in front of her. Mara stepped back in alarm. "No, no way. Snow doesn't freeze that fast." The lynx rose to her feet, moving with elegant silence. Frost broke away from her whiskers. She took one step toward Mara, and the temperature plummeted another 10 degrees. Mara gasped. Her chest constricted. The air felt heavier, almost metallic. The lynx stopped again. Not approaching, just watching. Then Mara noticed something else. The fallen pines didn't melt the snow either, not where their bark should have warmed the ground or blocked the wind. Their trunks were coated in thin sheets of rime, sparkling faintly in the dimming light. Everywhere the lynx looked, frost formed. Not naturally, purposely, responding. "Are you doing this?" Mara whispered. The lynx's pupils narrowed. A soft breeze drifted through the clearing, warm spring wind, but the snow refused to move. No melt, no softening. The flakes didn't even shift beneath the air, as though the snow had decided not to obey the season. Mara crouched near a fallen log, extending a gloved hand toward the nearest patch of frost. Scanning equipment would have helped, but she hadn't expected anything more than a weird microclimate. She touched the snow lightly. It didn't melt against her glove. It didn't even feel cold. It felt dead, like dry powder that had never been alive with water. "I don't understand," she murmured. "This isn't snow. Not anymore." The lynx exhaled softly, a nearly soundless chuff. The fallen pines crackled again. Frost raced along their trunks in delicate branches, forming crystalline shapes not unlike claw marks. Mara flinched. The lynx stepped forward, then froze mid-motion, not by choice. The snow around her contracted, just a fraction, but enough that Mara felt the pull, like a breath taken inward by the earth itself. The lynx growled low, its first sign of emotion. Mara's heart hammered. What was that? The snow pulsed. The lynx backed up, ears flat, tail flicking with sudden tension. The snow pulsed again. Mara scrambled away from the center, stumbling over a fallen root. She grabbed a pine trunk for balance, breath shaking in the cold air. What is this place? The lynx answered with her body. She looked at Mara, then at the snow, then back at Mara, as though urging her to see something obvious. Mara followed her gaze to the uneven ring of frost, the perfect circle of winter holding the lynx captive. Not snow, not cold, not weather, a boundary. You're stuck here, Mara whispered. Aren't you? The lynx did not blink, did not deny. The snow contracted again, slightly silently, tightening the circle. The lynx's whiskers trembled. Mara forced herself closer, ignoring the biting cold. Is it trapping you? Is it moving? The lynx released a low, rumbling sound, not a threat but warning. The boundary of snow shifted once more. Closer. Tighter. Mara staggered backward. It's shrinking! The lynx suddenly lunged toward her, but the moment its paw crossed the snow's inner edge, frost exploded upward, blocking its path like a rising wall of shards. The lynx skidded back, snarling, trapped. The snow circle sealed again. Mara stared in horror. The snow wouldn't melt. Because the snow wasn't melting. Because it wasn't snow anymore. It was something alive. And it was closing in. Mara stared at the lynx, heart knocking painfully against her ribs. The boundary of unmelted snow gleamed faintly in the dim forest light, an icy circle that seemed to pulse, tightening under its own invisible will. The lynx paced inside the shrinking space, each step silent, controlled, but charged with rising panic. Her breath fogged the air, even as Mara's hands stung from cold that cut straight through cloth and skin. Hang on, just give me a minute, Mara muttered, though she knew the lynx didn't understand the words. Still, the animal paused at the sound of her voice. The snow responded too. It tightened. Mara jolted. No, I wasn't talking to you. The snow shifted again, a subtle shiver across its entire surface, like a muscle contracting under skin. Frost climbed the fallen pine trunks, delicate patterns spiraling outward from the boundary. Mara stepped toward the ring. The temperature plunged further. Her eyelashes frosted. Her breath came out in thin, ragged bursts. The lynx snarled, not at her, but at the snow, at the invisible pressure closing in around them. Mara dropped to one knee near the boundary's edge. She extended her glove and brushed the surface lightly. It didn't feel like snow. It felt like something holding the idea of snow together, like the shell of a frozen memory. She pressed harder. The snow didn't give, didn't clump, didn't melt. It pushed back. Not physically, its surface didn't bulge. But through her fingertips, Mara felt a faint resistance, like touching the hide of a sleeping animal. She snatched her hand away. No, that's not possible. A soft gust of warm spring air drifted through the pines, but the snow didn't react. The warm wind touched her cheek, melted the frost on her sleeve, but the snow circle stayed pristine, unmoved, as if weather no longer applied to it. The lynx growled again, urgency building. She pressed her paws against the boundary, claws extended, but the snow rose to meet her touch, thin ice tendrils sprouting upward like skeletal fingers, warning her back. The lynx recoiled. Mara tensed her jaw. Okay, so you can't leave. But why? What is this? The snow answered, not with sound, not with movement, with temperature. A sudden wave of cold surged upward, so powerful it stung Mara's scalp and ears. She gasped, falling back onto the forest floor. Her breath froze instantly in a plume of white. The lynx's fur bristled, every hair standing on end. The fallen pine trunks crackled, a deep, brittle sound, like bones shifting under ice. Then, the snow circle expanded. Only a few inches, but enough that Mara scrambled back in alarm. But the lynx didn't use the chance to escape. She didn't run. She watched the snow, waited, listened. Mara, she muttered to herself, think. It's reacting to us, to movement, to sound, to attention. She crawled forward, watching carefully. The snow tightened again. Shrank. Not around the lynx this time, but around her. What? No, no. Mara slid backward, heart hammering. I'm not inside the circle. The boundary didn't care. The snow contracted toward her foot. The lynx hissed sharply, a deep, rasping cry that made the air vibrate. She lunged at the boundary again, despite the frost shards that rose to meet her. Her claws scraped against the ice, and for the first time, the snow reacted with hesitation. The tendrils paused mid-rise. Mara felt her breath catch. The lynx looked at her, not pleading, commanding. Me? Mara stammered. You want me to... The lynx's pupils narrowed. Mara forced herself forward, heart pounding against her ribs. All right, okay. Let's try this. She grabbed a fallen branch, a thick, heavy one, and slammed it against the snow's edge. For a moment, just a moment, the snow hesitated. The frost stopped climbing the pines. The circle paused its contraction. Then the branch froze. A sheet of ice crawled up its length in seconds, glittering in the dim light. Mara dropped it immediately. The snow pulsed, shrank again. But this time, Mara noticed something crucial. It didn't shrink toward her. It shrank toward the lynx. Mara's breath caught. It's not trapping me. It's trapping you. The lynx lowered her head, confirming the truth Mara had just spoken aloud. Mara stood shakily. Why? Why you? What did you do? The snow pulsed harder now, faster, closing in several inches. The lynx backed toward the center, growling low. A small crack appeared beneath the snow. Not ice, not soil. Blackness. A thin fissure of darkness beneath the frozen ring, like the forest floor had opened a slit into something colder, older. Mara gasped. Is that beneath the snow? The fissure widened. Cold spilled upward in violent surges. The lynx snarled at the ground itself, the fur on her spine rising like a storm crest. Mara took in the fallen pines, the unnatural cold, the ring tightening around a predator who should have ruled this forest. And then she understood. Something came up during the storm, she whispered. When the trees fell, it didn't trap the forest. Her eyes met the lynx's. It trapped you. The lynx didn't deny it. The snow pulsed again. The fissure widened further, and Mara felt the cold reach upward, slowly, as if a hand made of winter were trying to climb out. The fissure beneath the snow widened with a soft, splitting sound, one that didn't echo, didn't travel, but seemed to vibrate directly through Mara's bones. A slow exhale of frigid air seeped upward from the crack, frosting the tips of her hair. The lynx snarled, stepping between Mara and the widening gap. No, don't, Mara whispered, voice trembling. You don't have to protect me. But the lynx wasn't protecting her. She was warning her not to come closer. The snow circle tightened again, fast this time, closing like a muscle spasm around the lynx. Frost lashed upward along the pine trunks, wrapping around them like ribs of a frozen cage. The lynx hissed, ears flattened. Mara felt her heart climb into her throat. Stop! Please, stop! Her voice vanished into the cold. The pine needles overhead began to crackle. A thin layer of rime crawled along each branch, creeping outward like a frostbite spreading through flesh. Something beneath the snow was waking. The fissure pulsed. A second crack branched off from the first, jagged and sudden. Snow collapsed inward around it, not melting, sinking. Mara stumbled backward as a shape began to rise beneath the surface. Not a solid shape, not a creature. A shadow, thick and slow-moving, as if forged from compressed winter itself. It wasn't emerging. It was unfolding. Mara, she whispered, panic spiraling in her chest. She wasn't speaking to the lynx. She was grounding herself. The air had become so cold, she tasted metal. The lynx stepped closer to the fissure. No, don't go near it, Mara cried. But the lynx wasn't afraid of the darkness. She snarled at it, loud and full, a sound that shook the frost from her whiskers. The shadow beneath the snow paused. The temperature stopped dropping. For a moment. Then, the fissure twitched. A ripple passed through the snow. An unnatural wave that didn't displace the surface but shifted its meaning. as if the circle were inhaling. Mara whispered, "It responds to you. Only you." The lynx's amber eyes flicked toward her, and Mara understood something deeply wrong. The snow hadn't trapped the lynx. It had summoned her. Another crack split across the boundary, and a new wall of frost shot upward from the ground. It shaped itself like a spine, thin vertebrae of ice forming one after another in a slow, crawling motion. The lynx crouched low, fur bristling. Mara backed up, breath unsteady. What is it trying to build? A shape emerged beneath the snow, just beneath the surface. A distortion like a face pressed beneath a sheet. But not a living face. Not a human one. Something older. Something made of cold, not flesh. The snow bulged upward. Mara staggered. No, no, please. The bulge stopped. Not because of her. Because the lynx stepped forward. She growled, long and deep. Not defiant, but commanding. The shadow beneath the snow recoiled from her voice. It obeyed her. Mara's eyes widened. You're the one it listens to. The lynx looked back at her, and Mara felt the truth land like a falling tree. The lynx wasn't just trapped. The lynx was its anchor, its link to the living world. The only creature the cold recognized. The only one it remembered. The fissure pulsed again. But this time, the shadow didn't rise toward the lynx. It rose toward Mara. Her blood turned to ice. No! Stop! Don't! But the snow surged. The bulge expanded. A shape pressed upward from beneath the surface. A limb. A contour of something reaching. Something that recognized warmth and wanted it. The lynx leapt. She slammed her paws into the snow, claws unsheathed. Frost exploded upward in a violent burst of glittering shards. The shadow recoiled violently, splitting into two streaks of dark movement beneath the surface. The lynx landed with a heavy thud, every muscle taut, tail lashing. The snow paused. The fissure froze. The forest held its breath. Mara shook, tears leaking from her eyes, freezing on her cheeks. You saved me. The lynx's gaze flickered to her, and the fissure beneath the snow cracked open wider than before. The cold roared upward, not with wind, not with sound, but with presence. It washed over Mara like a rushing tide, ripping warmth from her lungs. She collapsed to her knees, choking on air that wasn't air. The lynx roared and lunged again, slamming her entire weight against the snow circle. This time, the snow shattered. Not fully, not enough to break the boundary, but enough for the cold to release a scream Mara felt, not heard. A scream of frustration, of hunger, of loss. The lynx stumbled backward, chest heaving. The frost cage around the fallen pines cracked outward, climbing farther along the trunks, reaching toward Mara. She scrambled to her feet. I have to get you out of here, she rasped. The lynx blinked slowly, as if agreeing. The snow pulsed again, faster, desperate. It began tightening around the lynx once more. The fissure's darkness brightened faintly. A glow like moonlight trapped under ice. Mara, she whispered to herself, panic rising. Move! Move now! She lunged toward the boundary, ignoring the cold, ignoring the pain, ignoring the frost climbing her boots, and reached for the lynx. The lynx reached back. Just as their hands and paws touched, the snow reacted with explosive force. A wall of ice shot upward, a barrier, a message. The cold had learned her, and now it wanted her too. The wall of ice slammed upward between Mara and the lynx so fast she barely registered the motion. One moment, her fingers grazed the lynx's fur. The next, a translucent barrier divided them like a glass blade. Mara stumbled back with a scream she couldn't hear. The cold swallowed sound before it could exist. The lynx hurled herself at the ice wall. It didn't crack. It didn't even tremble. The snow circle shrank again, tightening its grip around the fallen pines, around the fissure in the earth, around the lynx standing in the center. Move! Mara mouthed, slamming her palms against the ice. Frost bloomed under her touch, not across the ice, but across her palms. She ripped her hands away, skin burning, breath tight. The ice wall shifted, not melting, not thickening, reorienting, like it was turning its attention toward her. No, Mara whispered, stumbling backward. No, don't you look at me. Don't you... A jolt of cold hit her chest, knocking the air from her lungs. She choked, staggering until her back hit a fallen trunk. Rime crawled up the bark beside her, branching outward in delicate crystalline veins. The cold was expanding. Fast. The lynx snarled, a sound the snow tried to smother but couldn't. Her voice cut through the barrier in a low, rolling growl that seemed to slow the cold's advance. Mara sucked in a shaking breath. You're keeping it back. The lynx's golden eyes flicked toward her. Another pulse ran through the snow, but weaker this time. Erratic. The fissure beneath the snow brightened again, a pale blue glow like moonlight reflecting on ice. The glow twisted, stretching into a line. Then, 2 lines. Then, a branching pattern that spread across the underside of the snow circle. It looked like nerves, a nervous system waking. The lynx lowered herself to the ground, shoulders tense, as if preparing to pounce or bolt, but the circle held her firmly in place. Let her go, Mara screamed, slamming her shoulder into the ice wall. Cracks spidered through the barrier, but not from her strike, from beneath. The fissure widened far faster now. The glow intensified. The snow contracted sharply around the lynx, forcing her into a smaller patch of ground, her claws scraping at the surface as she fought the invisible tightening. Mara, move, she whispered to herself. Do something. Think. Her breath fogged in front of her, thick, heavy vapor, and hung in the air like smoke, refusing to dissipate. Then, the fog froze mid-air. Little shards of white dust drifted to the ground like dead ash. Mara covered her mouth, throat burning. Oh, God. The cold wasn't responding anymore. It was claiming. The fissure pulsed again, and a shape pressed against the underside of the snow. Not an arm or leg, not a head, but something like a ripple of force. A shift in weight, as though something beneath was trying to rise from prone to standing. Mara stumbled sideways, desperate to find a way around the ice. She dug at the snow with her boot, but it was like trying to break granite. She clawed at the pine trunk, searching for an angle, anything she could splinter or leverage. Nothing worked. The lynx slammed herself into the shrinking circle again, but frost lashed upward each time she tried, shards striking her fur, cutting shallow lines across her legs. She growled, frustrated but unbroken. Then the cold did something new. It listened. The fissure's glow flickered in rhythm with the lynx's breath, rising with her growls, falling with her silence. Mara swallowed hard. It's tied to you. It's feeding on you. It knows your rhythm. The lynx snarled sharply at her, a warning. The glow beneath the snow brightened violently, and the cold surged outward. A wave of frost exploded from the circle, spreading across the forest floor like lightning. Mara screamed and dove behind a fallen trunk as ice raced toward her boots. The cold struck the base of the pines and climbed. Branches froze mid-sway. Icicles formed from nothing. Bark cracked like bone. The entire clearing transformed into the skeleton of a winter that never ended. The lynx collapsed to one knee inside the shrinking circle, breath shallow. The snow tightened around her like a coil, constricting. No, 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 Mara sobbed. Don't you dare lose her. Please don't. The fissure erupted. Light burst upward from the crack, illuminating the lynx from below, casting her shadow across the trees in long, sharp lines. The snow rose with the light, not as flakes, not as a drift, but as a figure, a silhouette carved from cold and hollow luminance. Not male, not female, not human, a shape of winter. It stood half-formed within the circle, its edges blurred like smoke, its core glowing like ice under moonlight. And it looked at Mara. It didn't have eyes, but Mara felt the gaze like a spear of cold in her spine. The figure lifted one indistinct arm. The ice wall trembled. Mara, she whispered to herself, chest tight with terror. Run! But the cold figure shook its head. A gesture, a command. She would not run, not anymore. The cold had chosen its shape, and it wanted her to finish it.